Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jake, the Scary Story Guy, and today we're talking about a movie that none of us wanted to happen, but that we all knew would happen anyway. Once The Nun became the highest-grossing film in the Conjuring cinematic universe, it was only a matter of time before the demon Valak returned to the screens and to our hearts. And sure enough, 5 years later, Warner Brothers is cashing back in with the creatively titled The Nun 2, directed by Michael Chaves. Now, Chaves is the guy who directed the third Conjuring film, the one that was a huge step down from, and quite frankly, a bastardization of the original films in that series, as well as the ill-fated Curse of La Llorona movie, which actually held up my review series of the Conjuring cinematic universe for over a year, because I just couldn't bring myself to sit down and watch it. So what could go wrong here? Now, I can't say I was excited for this movie, but I did go out on a bit of a limb with my review of the original Nun movie, which most people hated, but I actually quite enjoyed. I gave it 3.5 stars, which was too high. I was still ironing out the kinks in my rating system. It's a 3-star movie in my view, but I did not hate it. I wouldn't say it was a good movie, but I at least had quite a bit of fun with it. However, I did not have fun with the second Nun. In fact, I was going to spend some time talking about how I just wanted to get on my phone for most of this movie, which of course I didn't do because I was in the theater and I'm not a bad person, but it at least gave me some sympathy for the people who do actually do that shit. But then I just barely watched Jeremy John's review of this movie and he said the exact same thing about it. So just know, I had that thought independently of him. This is original content, I swear. Because here's the thing, when you do a sequel, you've got to bring something new to the table. We've already seen this villain twice in The Conjuring 2 and The Nun, of course, and admittedly, she is a great villain. I don't know who the first person was who looked at Bonnie Aarons and thought to themselves, we gotta dress that chick up as a demon nun, but that was a fantastic idea. And yet, I must say, I've had my fill of her standing there menacingly, of her reaching out and grabbing people. What else you got? Not much, apparently. This is just more of the same. Look, I fucking hated the Annabelle movies, but I'll at least say this for them. They took a bad guy from the Conjuring movies and tried to give her a bit of a backstory. Let us know a little bit about what's going on with her. I thought that's what was gonna happen here. We were going to take the demon Valak and come to understand it more fully. Where did it come from and what are its motivations? What's it been up to throughout history? And instead we got a bunch of magazine pages turning to look like The Nun, which is cool if you don't think about it for more than 2 seconds. I'm realizing now that I haven't actually talked about this movie's plot yet, such as it is, and so I'll get this out of the way quick. It'll be brief. There's just not that much to say. So this movie takes place a few years after the original Nun movie, in which Sister Irene teams up with her buddy named Maurice to defeat a demon nun using a holy relic. And at the very end of that movie, an upside-down cross appears on the back of Maurice's neck, implying that he is now possessed, and of course that a sequel is incoming. And this is that sequel, in which Sister Irene teams up with a different buddy to save Maurice from the demon nun by defeating it with a different holy relic. And yeah, that's really all you need to know. Now, obviously, you can't have a lot of romantic tension in a movie like this between your two leads because of, you know, the sacred vows and whatnot. So they do bring in a third kind of semi-main character to hook up with Maurice. She's played by Anna Popplewell, which is the single most English last name I think I've ever heard. And if she looks familiar to viewers of a certain generation, it's because she was one of the kids in those Chronicles of Narnia movies they made back in the day. She looks basically the exact same in this as she did back then, too, except she's playing a mom with a 10-year-old daughter, which just made me feel unbelievably old. And yeah, that's basically the movie. Taissa Farmiga is back as Sister Irene. She does a pretty good job, though not as good as her sister does in the Conjuring movies. Her buddy in this one is a fairly confounding character for me. Is a nun named Sister Deborah, who apparently was a young black girl in the American South, and her family home was burned down by racists, and so her dad was like, because of this, you need to go serve God, and so kicks her out of the house even though she doesn't even believe in God, and that's how she ends up in a convent in Italy or wherever. And I gotta say, that is a character description that just doesn't actually exist. I mean, it's very clearly written by a modern writer for an audience with modern sensibilities, and so it does kind of take you out of things when you're supposed to believe this is, you know, post-war Europe and you're bouncing around all these different ancient monasteries. But whatever, that's nowhere near my biggest problem with the movie. I think if I had to pick my actual biggest problem with the movie, it would be that you just can't see shit for the entire runtime. It's like season 8 Game of Thrones syndrome, where they filmed it in a certain resolution that just didn't show up well on most people's TVs, except this was in a movie theater on opening night, and it still looked like shit. Which to me, it's just indicative of bad direction, because say what you will about the first Nun movie, but it was a gorgeous movie to look at. It's full of all these shots of the Romanian countryside and all these old chapels, and there's no reason that this couldn't have been the same way. But I swear to you, I was squinting through a solid solid half of this movie just trying to figure out like, oh, that silhouette seems scared. I wonder which character that is. There are so many moments where the music and the character's reaction will very clearly indicate that something terrifying has just happened, only you didn't see it because the screen was too dark. And there were so many other moments where just like genuinely bad direction ruined a scare that could have otherwise been pretty nice. Like, okay, mild spoilers here. There's a scene at the very beginning where a priest gets lifted up into the air and immolated. And this could have been a really cool scene, except the camera is jumping around like every 2 seconds from shot to shot, and the special effects on the fire are so bad that the scene just becomes borderline laughable. I mean, this movie really could not be less scary if it tried. There's this jump scare, it's just so stupid, where a bird flies by the screen and caws. Except it sounds more like a human scream than a caw, so it's just like this bird like coming across the screen like, ah! And then there are these moments, I counted at least 3, where a character will get hurt, like grievously injured, and then 2 seconds later will just be up and at 'em, running around like nothing had happened. It's just not good. There's nothing here to recommend other than a couple decent performances and an admittedly creepy looking villain, who by the way you have seen in 2 far superior movies. So just look, don't waste your time. God help us if Michael Chaves directs the next Conjuring movie. I'll be so pissed. I am gonna give The Nun 2, appropriately enough, 2 stars out of 5. Alright, stay tuned for more scary story content coming soon. Spooky season will be upon us before we know it. But in the meantime, thank you for watching this video. Here's hoping it saved you some of your valuable time, and here's hoping you survive to see the next one.